Good day. This is your word for the day from Anchor Church in Tunzini. I don't know if you've noticed, but I always wear this cross. Actually, I have quite a few different crosses, but this one is my favorite, so I have it on most of the time. I'm sure you've noticed that many people have crosses as jewelry. Some would even have a cross tattooed on their body. Some would have a cross dangling from the rearview mirror in their car. We have one in our church, an empty cross. And sometimes when you drive along the main road, you'll see huge crosses high up on mountains, and they light them up at night. And it's really become the in thing to have a cross, especially hanging around your neck or as earrings, the little crosses hanging on earrings. But the origin of the cross was not the in thing. It wasn't something that you desired or something that you would wear around your neck as jewelry. Jesus must have seen many crucifixions in his lifetime on earth. So long before he was crucified, he knew exactly what it was about, what the cross was about. And then he said something to his disciples that really scared them. He said in Luke 9 verse 23 and 24, he says, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." Why did Jesus say that? Why am I supposed to pick up my cross and if I wanted to be his follower, why carry a cross? It hasn't got such a good meaning. What did he mean by that? Well, let me talk about what he didn't mean. Many of us interpret a cross as something like a burden that we carry for our lives, for the rest of our lives. Like a difficult relationship or unpleasant job situation or a rebellious child or a physical illness, and then almost with self-pitying pride we say, this is my cross, I'll just have to carry this cross. I'll just have to bear it. Well, this is not what Jesus meant when he said, "Take up your cross and follow me." It's not some burden that we were issued with. When Jesus carried his cross to be crucified, no one thought of the cross as symbolic of a burden to carry. The cross meant one thing and one thing only, just one thing. It meant a painful and humiliating death. 2,000 years later, we sing about the old rugged cross as a cherished symbol of atonement, forgiveness, grace and love. But in Jesus' day, when he walked on earth, the Romans forced convicted criminals to carry their own crosses to their place of crucifixion. Carrying a cross meant carrying your own execution device, if you want to call it that, while facing all the ridicule along the way. What Jesus meant when he said, "Take up your cross and follow me," is that being willing to die in order to follow Jesus, dying to self, surrender completely, 100% to him. Many people and churches these days have bought into a Christianity that's about conforming God into our image rather than conforming ourselves into his image. The natural man is wired like that. Selfish gain, comfortable living and pleasure, definitely not pain. Jesus invites us to a radically different way of living, the way of the cross, a way that means I turn away from my self-love and my own preferences and grab hold of living fully for the sake of Jesus. Even when it means pain, even if it costs me, if it costs me my comfort or my security. He said, "For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." That's not what his followers wanted to hear. Their view of the Messiah was different. It was all wrong. It was all about what he would do for them. They believed that the Messiah would come and free them from the oppressive Romans. Even those closest to him, his disciples, had it all wrong. In Luke 19 verse 11, when Jesus began teaching that he was going to die at the hands of the Jewish leaders, suddenly many of his followers rejected him. Because following Jesus is easy when life runs smoothly. Our true commitment to him becomes evident during trials. He warned us and assured us that we will have trials as his followers. John 16 verse 33 says, "I've told you all this, that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world." Discipleship means sacrifice. And Jesus never tried to hide the fact that it will cost. But how do I measure my own willingness to take up my cross and follow him? I would say by asking myself some questions. Am I willing to follow Jesus if it meant losing my closest friend? And if it meant being kicked out of my family? If it meant ruining my reputation? If it means losing my job? And ultimately, am I willing to follow Jesus if it means losing my life? In some places in the world, these consequences are a reality. Following Jesus doesn't necessarily mean that everything will happen to me, but am I willing? Am I willing to take up my cross and follow him? When faced with a choice, Jesus or the comforts of this life, which will I choose? Commitment to Jesus means taking up my cross daily. Because only if I'm willing to take up my cross can I call myself his disciple. Jesus said in Luke 14 verse 27, he says, if you do not carry your own cross and follow me, you cannot be my disciple. Plain and simple. But the exciting news is found in Romans 6 verse 8, where it says, and since we have died with Christ, we know we will also live with him. So it's not about dying, it's about life. Taking up your cross and following Jesus and committing to him fully means life eternal. The burden you thought was your cross that you had to bear, you can lay at his feet when you take up your cross and follow him. So I just wanted to leave that with you. I want you to go in peace, and if you're willing, God is willing. He will give you all the help that you've ever needed to take up your cross and follow him, because it means life. Amen.